Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. My name is Nabil, and today I will be taking you through the SAT English orientation. But first, let me tell you what I will be talking about. Of course, I will introduce myself in more detail. I will tell you what the SAT is about and what the digital SAT is about in specific. What is the exam format so that you know what to expect, what is the exam content, how long this specific course will be, and what will the schedule look like. Of course, the schedule can change depending on what section that you register to, okay? What will you achieve from this course? And finally, what resources will be used in this course? So, as I told you earlier, my name is Nabil. My full name, of course, Nabil Mustafa. And I've been teaching SAT since 2019 up to the present date. I'm also instructing TOEFL and IELTS in Apostrophe Educational Center, as well as privately. I've also been an English teacher at the Huda American School, and I've also taught it privately. And so my area of expertise revolves around SAT, TOEFL, IELTS, and English in general. I'm a graduate of Information and Computer Systems in Malaysia from the International Islamic University. And at the moment, I am doing my master's in computer engineering. All right, so now let's get to the main point. What is the SAT? SAT stands for Scholastic Assessment Test, all right? Or Standard Aptitude Test. Now, what does that mean? It tests your ability to express your critical thinking, your ability to express your understanding and comprehension, as well as your logic and reasoning. This test is used by universities and higher education institutions around the world. So it's an international test. And it is offered by College Board, which is an organization or body based in the United States. The test is built on multiple choice questions, of course, with a time limit of 2 hours and 14 minutes. We will look at the details of what this test is made up of. The digital SAT or SAT has recently come into play, right? So it was issued, or it came into effect starting this year, all right? Previously, SAT papers were done in a classroom, and you would have a paper and a pen, and you would need to write your answers or circle using a marking sheet. But now everything has moved online, okay? So it's a computer-based test using the Blue Book application, which is an app online or a software that you use in order to take the test, of course, during the time which the test will be given. So let's look at the format of the exam. I will be talking about the English part, of course, since that is what I will be teaching for you for this course. So you have 2 modules in the English, and these modules are equally divided, right? And in both modules, you'll be tested in reading and writing skills, right? Doesn't mean you would need to actually write something, because it is multiple choice, but the skills that you would be tested in require you to have that information, the information or the ability to write or the ability to read, right? And the ability to write means that you would need to know grammar, means that you would need to know punctuation, you would need to know the rules that govern writing. As for reading, it is comprehension, your ability to summarize, your ability to paraphrase, your ability to rationalize different parts, connect ideas together. As I told you before, SAT measures your aptitude, right? Your ability of critical thinking, logic, reasoning, and so on and so forth. There are 27 questions in the first module and 27 questions in the second module, right? And altogether, you have 54 questions. And then you would have a break and you would have your math after that. So the English, once again, is 2 modules with 27 questions in each module. And each module takes 32 minutes, right? So in total, you will have to do it for 64 minutes, just the English part. Okay. Now, the types of questions that you would get are related to craft and structure, information and ideas, standard English conventions, and expression of ideas in general. So in craft and structure, you would be tested in your ability to use comprehension, vocabulary, analysis, synthesis, and so on and so forth. In information and ideas, you would be tested in textual and quantitative, right? So you have 12 to 14 questions there, 11 to 15 in standard English conventions, and 8 to 12 in the expression of ideas. So by the end of the course, what do you hope to achieve? First of all, you would understand the SAT, right? Exam, how to do it, what to expect once you enter the exam hall. You'd also improve your knowledge in the SAT English. And finally, you would improve your ability to solve an SAT paper. So some of you might have already done SAT before, but you found that your score is very low because you have a problem with time, or you have a problem with a certain concept that you're not able to grasp. So this course will help you get through that challenge so that you reach to a point where you can score highly for the SAT and you can achieve whatever academic goal you have with regard to the SAT. Perhaps even enter a specific field in the university of your choice that you wanted to do before, but you didn't have the confidence to do so. So generally, our lesson would have or would be divided into these 4 activities. So we would start by explaining a concept, right? So I would explain to you a specific concept in the SAT. It could be related to grammar, for example, pronoun reference. It could be related to comprehension and reading, such as big picture idea, purpose question, whatever it may be. That process would usually take 20 minutes, depending on whether the concept is big or small. It could also extend further. We would also solve exercises in the class, right? So when we learn something, we need to apply it, we need to practice it. If we don't apply it and practice it, then it is not as effective, right? And so afterwards, during the class, you would get, after explaining the concepts, you would get questions that you need to solve, and you will share the answers in a private message so that I may evaluate it. And at the same time, we will discuss these ideas, right? So we'll discuss your answers. We will discuss why some of your answers are correct, why some of your answers are wrong. And based on that, the course will be active, right? So you will not be passively just listening. I expect all my students to participate completely, right, in the class, in the course. So when I ask a question, I want you to respond. If there is something that's not clear, I want you to ask. Now let's look at 2 questions that you would find throughout this course, right? Of course, these are specifically taken from the official SAT practice tests. And so just so that you have an idea of what to expect, right? Maybe some of you are already familiar, but many of you might not be familiar with how a question looks like. So we will look at these 2 questions together and we will solve them. All right. So let's look at question 1. The spacecraft OSIRIS-REx briefly made contact with the asteroid 10-1955 Bennu in 2020. NASA scientist Daniela Della Cristina reports that despite facing the unexpected obstacle of a surface mostly covered in boulders, OSIRIS-REx successfully blank a sample of the surface, gathering pieces of it to bring back to Earth. So we are asked which choice completes the text with the most logical and precise word or phrase. Is it attached, collected, followed, or replaced? Right? So now here in the question, you can always find some sort of hint, and this hint might be a sentence, it might be just a phrase or a couple of words that would point you to the correct answer. And we can, here in this question, we can find the last statement here, or the last, this last part of the question, gathering pieces of it to bring back to Earth. What does that indicate? When you gather something, when you gather something, you collect it, right? And so you can find a direct link between the word gather and collected, right? There is a connection between these two words. They're synonymous to one another. And for that reason, we would choose B to be the correct answer. Now, if we take A, C, and D and try to place it here, just so that we can confirm that it is not correct, we will see that if we put attached a sample of the surface, what does it mean to attach a sample of the surface? This word is off context. Followed and replaced is also the same. So the only one that makes sense is collected, and it is the one that directly follows through from this word here, gathering. It's synonymous to it. All right, now let's look at question number 2 here. Research conducted by planetary scientists Katrina Milkovich suggests that the moon's surface may not accurately blank early impact events. When the moon was still forming, its surface was softer, and asteroid or meteoroid impacts would have left less of an impression. What I'm going to do is I'm going to underline this, and you will see why it becomes important later on. It would have left less of an impression. Thus, evidence of early impacts may no longer be present, right? So what they're trying to tell us here, right, is related to the option or the word that I will select here. So they're saying that the moon's surface may not accurately evaluate, mimic, receive, or reflect. With this type of question, we can use elimination, right? So we find what words here don't make sense. We can immediately cancel out C, right? Because the moon's surface doesn't evaluate early impact events. It doesn't make sense, right? You always have to ask yourself the question, what is the subject of this sentence? And can the subject actually perform the verb? And you notice all these here are verbs, right? So can the moon surface evaluate? No, it doesn't make sense at all. It's like saying that a gorilla swims in the river, right? The word, does a gorilla swim in the river? No, gorillas don't swim. And so in the same way, the moon surface does not evaluate. Does a moon surface receive? Well, it's not used in the way, the context that this is used, that is present here, right? And the context is all this, the whole thing. So the moon surface is not receiving anything. You cannot say it does not accurately receive early impacts. So we'll cancel this out. Does it mimic or does it reflect? All right. So now notice here the word reflect can have more than one meaning, right? Reflect is, we can say it that I stand in front of the mirror and I see my reflection, right? So the mirror reflects to me what my own reflection, right? That is one meaning of reflect, right? But in this case, reflect can also mean to show right, to show. So you can replace the word here, reflect, with show. So for example, I can say that the numbers that are present in the report about the population of the Earth do not clearly reflect the actual population of the Earth. They do not accurately show the population of the Earth, right? Why? Because a reflection is supposed to show something exactly as the thing it's supposed to reflect, right or not? So here we would use the word reflect, because notice here you have would have left less of an impression, telling us that it does not, may not what, accurately reflect. Because if it did accurately reflect early impact events, then it would have left a correct impression, right? And early impacts would have been present, but it does not do that. And so for that reason, I would choose reflect. Now, some of you don't know what the word mimic means, but that's fine. You don't need to know it to be able to answer the correct answer. So when you have two words that are related, or not related, but two words that are left over, and for one you don't know the meaning, but for one you do have the meaning, it's always best to go with the one you're more confident of. And so B, C, and D are wrong. The correct answer we have here is A. So these are some of the questions that you will be looking at in this course, and that we'll be solving throughout the course as a whole, right? So all the best. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.